Hi everyone, and welcome to a longer game match, which I haven't done for a long time. This is where I play a much longer time limit, 15 plus 10, and I try to explain my thoughts in a lot of detail. I did just spend half an hour recording a game, and I realised I had my mic on mute. I'm going to play Dutch defence here, so I resigned because he wouldn't have set my draw offer just for entertainment value, so I could record this one with sound. That's how professional I am. So yeah, again, the idea of this is quite a long time. I'm playing on chess.com. Let's hope we haven't got it cheat. And I'm playing this 15 minutes plus 10 seconds. And I'm going to explain all the thought process I can think of, so you at home can get into the mind of a grandmaster and hopefully learn from the correct way to think about every aspect of the game. So let me start by explaining everything I'm doing, and hopefully you can just learn things from bits I say, pick things up. Probably a half an hour video, a bit longer than some videos, but I think these are very educational. And we have now, of course, any start of the game, you need to know the opening stage. And if you've watched any of my videos before, you know I'm a big fan of the Dutch opening, and I play it religiously. In some competitions I mix it up a little bit because I don't like my opponents preparing too much. But the general idea when you're playing against the English, which my opponent's adopting here, the way I like playing this, I like trying to get a pawn to e5 and a pawn to d6. Now, I'm going to go for this now when I'm always a little bit fearful of d4. I think d4 is a good move there before I can stabilise these two pawns on these squares. But he hasn't played d4, and that allows me to now stabilise these two pawns. So I'm going to go d6, and if he goes d4 now, I can go bishop e7. If he takes there, I take with a pawn. If he takes the queens off, I can take with my bishop. And in actual fact, that's not too bad for me. So let's just show this. He's played here, and had he played this one move earlier, I wouldn't have been able to do this next plan. I may have had to take here with a king. But after bishop e7, which is a reversed Harry attack by reversed British Grand Prix, I'm keeping the tension in the centre, and this is another thing I often do. I don't like relieving the tension, and I don't think strong players do, unless it achieves something tangible. And I want to keep these pawns together. I don't want to push on, because as soon as you make pawn moves, you weaken squares. And if I push my pawn there, I weaken this square here. And that would give his knight a natural outpost, if you can imagine that knight getting there. So I don't really want to move this pawn. And here I'm going to simply castle. You've always got to be aware of what your opponent's trying to achieve. And I'm not too scared about him trying to give up his bishop. Two bishops in this position seems quite nice to me. So I'm just going to simply castle. Again, if he captures, I capture back. Yes, the queens get exchanged. You can't always avoid that, even if you're a very aggressive player like me. And the other thing to bear in mind is that when you're playing with the black pieces, you have less options. So sometimes you just have to suck it up, and be very confident in. This is why it's good to be, very confident in a range of positions rather than just in certain types like attacking positions, because you might avoid entering into like positional endgames then, but you shouldn't. If it's the best move to play, you should go into endings. This is something Bobby Fischer made very clear. Someone, when he was interviewed, said, "What kind of style do you play?" And he just said, "I just play the best moves." And this is clearly what you should try to do if you're serious about improving. So, okay, so we are going to take here. And now he's gone queen here. I've had this type of position many times before. I'm very, very comfortable here. Yes, he's attacking a pawn, so I want to deal with something like that. This check can be annoying, but no threats at the moment. So how do I deal with this? Now, developing a piece is interesting, but I feel that normally always the positional desirable move, and this is again not just achieving my own ideas in this position, but more so restraining my opponent's ideas. The positional desirable move is this. Why? Well, first of all, I blunt out the bishop, but I also take control of this important square here, and he might well, had I not played that, wanted to use that square of his knight coming in. And in this case, well, I mean, queen a5 is interesting, but the normal plan in Dutch is just to go here when the queen can come over to the king side. So I'm just going to play plans that I know from experience. Now he's given up the bishop. I'm going to take with my bishop, and he's come here, and he's trying to do something quite sensible where he's trying to exchange these two guys off and isolate this pawn. And I've had this kind of thing many times before, and white does this, but I find that black is very comfortable in these positions. Generally because I got very good activity, and I've also got ideas of a kingside attack later on. So a very interesting move here would just be to go f4, and I'm thinking I don't really want to take here because he gets his knight to a nice central square. I mean, if I'm going to go for that structure, I might as well allow him to capture me first where I come out. I've got to be a little bit careful about this pawn then. So f4, I like the look of that greatly because it stops his plan of getting this square because he's got a pawn in the way. It blocks his bishop down, so that's a positionally desirable move. Another attractive idea is to try and develop this knight and develop it to this square with tempo. But if I go here, he can take then. Let's have a look. Then I bring the knight here, and then let's say he goes queen c2, and it's not clear how I'm going to win this pawn back. I do have e4 ideas when it gets very tactical with the knight coming in here, and I'm just going to here, e4. Let's say he goes knight e2. How big a deal is this check? Well, I've got bishop takes f5, so I can go check in that position first. King f1, bishop takes f5, and that does look quite ambitious. But then if he takes here, I quite like this, I have to say. I mean, these are option between two very nice moves. Now, knight here captures knight here. And if he goes over to one of these squares, attacking my knight, I was thinking the bishop comes back, but maybe after here takes knight c5, attacking the queen, he can go to a3, attacking my knight. And if I go bishop e7, threatening knight d3 with a discovered attack, he goes b4, and then my knight doesn't have a good square. I kind of instinctively feel that f4 is the move I should play, but I feel actively I should be looking at this move because it's a good idea. But I'm just going to play this idea because I've seen a couple of lines there which are a little bit unclear, and I know that this is just a good positional move. I kill his bishop, his knight comes there, I don't make my pawn structure a little bit worse, I gain potential kingside attack, and I keep ideas of this. One very important thing to remember in this particular line is that you don't need to rush developing your bishop. In actual fact, you leave the bishop here often until it comes swooping directly into the most aggressive square, like over there on h3. So I never really worry about leaving this bishop at home. And you know, it's very important when you're playing not to just do stereotypical moves, you know, like, oh, I should develop my bishop, so I'm going to develop it. That's not the right way to think. The right way to think is, why am I developing this bishop? What is it actually doing on the square I'm moving it to? You know, because if you're just moving it because you think you should develop it, that's not really right, because you don't have a purpose. You should be thinking about what it's going to do next, and the same goes for all your pieces in general. Okay, so my opponent now has played another move which feels a little bit dodgy to me. He wants to put his knight clearly on this square. Now, this move really weakens this diagonal, so another thing I can think of doing is getting a bishop to this diagonal to stop him castling. Again, this knight maneuver is not a bad idea, and again, thinking about future plans for your pieces, we can see that he has good time to call. We can see that he has a hole on this square because he can't control it by a pawn, and I might be able to future bring it to this square and then into the center, but his knight does cover that square, so I don't think that's something that's going to work so quickly. I'm really tempted to move my bishop into here. This kind of, but okay, this movie, yeah, it's a check. I'm not worried about that. Also, there is ideas of taking and trying to attack that pawn, but you can easily defend it. This is the most natural move, but I'm looking at how he's weakened his position, and I'm going to go. Okay, has he got knight here? When my bishop gets him, no. This is a lovely square for my bishop, but you can maybe Knight here, then I bring the knight. Okay, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go for this plan. My bishop wasn't doing a great deal there. It was trapped in by the pawn. And I really like this diagonal. I'm trying to get maximum. I know I'm not using my queen side, but his pieces don't seem scary at all to me. The knight's not doing anything. The bishop is terrible. His other knight is only going to go here. So none of his pieces are threatening. So I feel I have time to maneuver my pieces to positions where my opponent has weakened himself by pawn moves. Pawn moves make weaknesses. Now he could go check here, but then my king moves, and then knight here maybe to control that pawn. But that pawn could be very weak if he pushes that pawn on, because then my knight coming out has much more purpose, because I might win a pawn on the way. So my simple plan, though, of course, is just to come here, and I feel that the e3 square for my bishop is very nice, especially as there's rooks on this square, meaning that his knight can't get rid of my bishop by retreating there quickly. And this rook move, this is something that, again, I would say this is a bit of an artificial move. Okay, he's gone for the check. I'll just push my king. Because a lot of people, they move their pieces, right, because it looks right. You know, like I said, you develop your piece. And you could say, oh, it attacked my queen. It's on an open file. But what was actually the real purpose? Okay, it's not a bad idea to control the open file, but he's actually maybe helped my queen come over. And maybe that didn't help him at all. Okay, so he's got going back to it. He's gone for this plan. Now, this move, the only thing I'd be a little bit careful of is if he's able to get the move b4 in, because if he's able to get b4 in, that knight becomes a little bit dead. So I expect if I go knight here, got to consider our opponent's best moves. Queen here defends the pawn, maybe attacks my pawn, and gets ready to play b4. So another thing I'm thinking of. My king is much safer than this. Is there any way I can blow things open here? I don't think so, but let's have a look. Takes, knight takes b6. Probably just very good for him because he's attacking my rook. I've sacrificed the pawn, but it does blow the position open, but I can't see a good response there. So knight here, queen here. And is he threatening to take this pawn? Maybe, maybe. So what then if I play b4? Ah, then he can't take because I have bishop b4. Oh. Okay, let's play this. It's a developing move. I attack a pawn, and it's one of the natural squares for his queen, which attacks my pawn, loses a piece to b5 because he can't take on pass on because of bishop b4. So he's got to put his queen on the light square, and both of those squares had downsides for him. If he puts it on c2, he can't go b4, and he's got to worry about my knight coming there. If he puts it on c4, it feels a little bit loose to eventual bishop e6, for example, queen g6, bishop e6, gaining another tempo, and b5 when, you know, really hitting it. So he's got to be very careful now how he defends this pawn. And of course, so I can win that pawn, it'd be a whole world of pain. So this is what I was saying earlier about this move. It kind of looks right, but it feels like he's done a lot of moves which have just made his position a little bit bad. He banged out this e4 idea. Not a very good idea, actually, from him. He hasn't castled. He hasn't developed his knight. He's played his queen out, and now he's going to lose a piece. I've worked out that this one wins a piece. No point thinking about other options, and instead it wins a queen. So there we go, and he's resigned. Very quick, long play game, but you know, I'm not in control of that. Sometimes we just, you know, I'm going to leave it like that because I still think these very quick. You know, he's got a very good rating. Let's remember the rapid ratings here are much lower than they should be. You can add on normally a couple of 100 points at least. You know, maybe 300 or ELO. But let's have a look at just the key moments. Well, I can do a game review as well. We can compare it to the computer and maybe have a quick look on G-Chess as well. I'll just see what the computer says on chess.com. So let me just do that, and we can add in its evaluation in case, you know, because also it's very, the good thing about playing these long play games is that you can have a good look at your games afterwards, and you can see where in future you can improve. And this is a great way. This is a great thing to do in general. You know, look at your game, see how you can improve. I'm just going to review it, and you can see there that my accuracy 97.4, pretty bloody good, right? I really knew what I was doing. I didn't make any bad moves, only played the best moves, so actually pretty yeah, I mean, I'll take it, right? I don't know what it's doing here. D6 is the book move. I don't need this analysis because I know what I'm doing. Let's just go back to this thing here. Okay, now, so I'm happy with that, and I think I played it perfectly. What did my opponent do wrong? Well, I think first of all, after e5, he should go d4 straight away, because if he plays this move straight away, I have to either do something with my pawns, or if I try the same plan, he can now capture here, and the difference is my king is a little bit uncomfortable because it's moved. So he was playing too quick in the opening. He played on autopilot this bishop g2 move. He played it quickly, but you should never play an autopilot, especially when you're facing a rather strange opening like the Dutch. Because when he played it now, the difference is, of course, if he takes it and takes the queens, my bishop very comfortably recaptures. And from experience, I know black is absolutely fine in these positions. I've won some nice games. I'm not going to listen to the computer's evaluation. I'm a grandmaster and I've got my own experience in it. And this is not the strongest computer anyway. And one of the plans here is to go c6 and bring this bishop out this way. It's very pleasant. After bishop g5, well, I mean, the computer says it's a good move, but I don't really see why. I don't really see what this does. I mean, he's always, after this move, going to have to give up his bishop, which seems odd to me. And now, well, he took, and again, it's this factor of relieving the tension too soon. And here, queen b3. And I don't like queen b3 either. Again, the computer kind of likes it, but we saw that the queen is just not very well placed here. He encourages me to play a move I want to play. This move, because we've talked about this earlier, and again this move the computer says is excellent, but again I kind of argue that I kind of think he should be thinking about developing there, because this helps me put my queen on a better square, and does his rook on an open file might be good, but only later on. And why did he take off before I attacked that bishop? Very strange move. Well, his idea was to go e4, and he did this very quickly, and now f4 is a good positional move. And look, I've already nearly got a 2-pawn advantage. f3 is a mistake, and now the computer kind of likes knight a6 as the best option, but I think this is a very clever move causing him more trouble, and he now really gets in a lot of bother. And here, well, you know, he's already nearly in a lost situation. Okay, I'm just gonna have a look on G-chess now. Let's just see if we can get this G-chess evaluation up, and we maybe just have a look. Oh, we'll do this another time, I think. So I'll leave that there. So okay, a short and sweet, longer game. You know, I'll try to do the odd more longer game when possible, but hopefully you still learnt something from it. And thanks for watching. And do remember, please like and subscribe to my channel. More videos coming out now, so we'll try to get some extra stuff out. Cheers, bye.